She possessed a beauty that was pure and untouched by the world, yet she found herself trapped in a life of vice, becoming the most expensive woman in town. Countless men came from far and wide, seeking nothing more than a single night with her. They fought over her attention, but not a single one of them truly cared about her, until one man showed up and brought a faint glimmer of light into her life. He wasn't like the other men, who lunged at her with lust-filled eyes. Instead, he simply talked to her and told her he wanted to marry her. But in Angel's eyes, every man who approached her had ulterior motives. She didn't hesitate to throw Mike out the door. What she never expected, though, was that from that day forward, Mike started showing up at her room more and more often, yet he always remained a perfect gentleman. He would sit quietly by her side, confessing his feelings for her over and over again, only to be rejected every single time. Mike's friends thought his behavior was absolutely ridiculous. In their eyes, a woman like her wasn't worth wasting all that time and money on. Angel, too, found his unwavering sincerity deeply unsettling. She didn't believe in any promise that claimed to bring her happiness, because her life had already been filled with nothing but betrayal and abandonment. Ever since she was born, her father had kept her and her mother trapped in a manor on the outskirts of town. It wasn't until Angel turned 8 that her absentee father finally made an appearance. But he didn't bring the fatherly love she had so desperately longed for. Instead, afraid of being discovered by his legitimate wife, he kicked both her and her mother out of the house. In the mid-19th century, an era ruled by men, it was nearly impossible for a woman to find an honest way to make a living. With no other options left, her mother turned to selling her own body to survive. It seemed like a fall from grace, but it was the only way the two of them could stay alive. Yet fate showed no mercy. Soon after, her mother fell ill from that very life and passed away. At just 8 years old, Angel was left completely alone in the world. Shortly after her mother's death, Angel was sold by one of her mother's so-called friends to a notoriously cruel duke. It was on that very day that she was given a new name, Angel. She became nothing more than a plaything for the duke's desires and a tool for him to amass his fortune. Then on the day Angel turned 18, she received a very special client, her own biological father, the very man who had thrown her and her mother out all those years ago. He didn't recognize his own daughter, and Angel didn't bother to explain. She simply led him straight into her room. She wanted revenge. She wanted to destroy him. When her father finally learned who she really was, an overwhelming wave of shame washed over him. He ended his own life in disgrace, and Angel felt almost nothing inside, because that was exactly what she had wanted all along. That very same night, a kind-hearted woman reached out to help her, and helped her escape under the cover of darkness. She had hoped that by leaving everything behind, she could start a brand new life. But instead, she was ambushed by 2 desperate women, and before she could even defend herself, Angel was knocked unconscious, and all her money was stolen. When she finally came to, she had been sold off once again to a brothel called the Palace. In that place, any resistance was met with brutal beatings. Her body was treated like nothing more than merchandise, trampled and degraded. She stopped fighting against her fate and learned to shut out all emotion behind a cold, icy mask. When faced with Mike's relentless confessions, her heart was both shaken and terrified, because in her mind, no man could ever truly love someone as broken as her. To make Mike back off, Angel told him she felt nothing for him, and even mocked him for being nothing but a lowly farmer. Humiliated and hurt, Mike finally walked away. As she watched his figure fade into the distance, a strange emptiness washed over Angel. For the first time, her frozen heart began to waver. Maybe she really could have a different kind of life, one with dignity, one that was normal. Summoning her courage, she went to the madam and made a bold request. She wanted to use all the money she had earned for the madam over the years to buy her freedom. But the madam had no intention of letting her go that easily. To crush any hope she had left, she ordered her men to beat Angel senseless. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was an unconscious worry for Angel, but Mike suddenly jolted awake from a nightmare. He rushed to Angel's room and found the very sight he had dreaded most. Angel, battered and broken, lying in bed in utter despair. His heart shattered, and he could no longer stand by and watch her be treated like this. He pulled out every last penny he had and bought her freedom. Mike brought the bruised and battered Angel back to his home. When she woke up again, she noticed a ring on her finger. She tried to take it off and return it to Mike, but Mike told her it had been his mother's ring and asked her to keep it on. As soon as Angel's body began to heal, she tried to slip away while Mike was out running errands. But she hadn't been gone long when Mike discovered the ring she had left behind. When Angel realized Mike had caught up to her, she flew into a rage and slapped him across the face. But to her surprise, Mike hadn't come to drag her back. Instead, he had brought her food, water, and warm clothes, and gave her two choices. One way led to a town 19 miles away, where the madam's men could easily drag her back into the abyss. The other way led home, just 1 mile in the opposite direction, where there was food, water, and a husband who loved her. Watching Mike walk away into the distance, a wave of loneliness washed over Angel. As dusk began to settle, Angel finally turned back and made her way home to Mike, and Mike didn't say a word about it. He simply handed her food and brought her warm water to wash her feet. He wanted to show her through his actions, "I'm not here to judge your past. All I care about is your present and your future." From that day on, the two of them lived a simple and peaceful life on the farm. They would fish together by the river, pull weeds together in the fields, and chop wood and cook together. Angel not only learned many practical skills, but also felt a lightness and joy she had never known before. One night, Angel brought it up again. She offered her body to Mike, because in her mind, that was the only way she could repay him. But Mike turned her down once more, because Angel still hadn't truly fallen in love with him yet. As much as he desired this beautiful woman, how could his heart not waver? To keep his head clear, Mike went down to the river to wash himself with cold water. And Angel just happened to catch a glimpse of it. Her once frozen heart seemed to slowly begin melting under the warmth of Mike's sincerity. That night, Angel had a dream. In it, the Duke from her childhood came for her again, trying to drag her away by force. She struggled with all her might, until Mike gently woke her up, and she realized it had only been a bad dream. To soothe her anxiety, Mike took her to a quiet hillside. He wanted to show her with his own eyes that darkness would always be dispelled, and light would eventually return. In Mike's view, the color and warmth in life could come back just like the sunrise, but Angel could only see it as a distant, unreachable fantasy, and that someone like Mike could never truly love someone as broken as her. Her response gave Mike his answer. So under the first light of dawn, Mike leaned in and kissed Angel, and on that very day, the two of them finally fell truly in love. She had hoped that this simple, happy time would last forever, but a man suddenly appeared and shattered their peaceful life completely. That man was Mike's brother-in-law, William, a gold prospector who had once been a client of Angel's. Desperate and out of options, William came to Mike for help, and when he laid eyes on Angel, he instantly recognized her for who she used to be. When Mike stepped away, William began taunting Angel, calling her a filthy woman, and telling her she didn't deserve to be with Mike. When Angel didn't react, William went straight to Mike, urging him to throw Angel out. Every word out of his mouth was filled with insults and contempt for Angel. Finally, Mike had had enough. He landed a punch square on William's face without a second thought. Perhaps the dirtiest thing in this world isn't the body, but the malice that tries to stain another soul with vile words. Mike decided it was time for William to leave. He refused to let anyone show Angel even a trace of disrespect. He went to Angel's side and told her not to take William's cruel words to heart. He had never cared about her past. All he wanted was to spend the rest of his life with her, just as they were, and maybe one day have a child of their own. But those words hit a nerve and brought back Angel's most painful memory. It turned out Angel had once been pregnant with the Duke's child, but to keep her earning money for him, he had forced her to miscarry in the most brutal way, and even left her completely unable to have children. That night, Angel couldn't sleep. She thought about Mike's hopes for the future and remembered William's harsh, ugly words, and a wave of guilt washed over her. The next morning, Angel took off her ring, planning to leave quietly. She ran into William, who was also getting ready to go, and hitched a ride with him. But she never could have imagined that during a rest stop, William would make a move on her. He forced himself on her and called it payment for the ride. After he had his way, they continued on toward town. The moment the carriage reached the entrance of the town, William kicked Angel out. He was terrified that someone might connect him to a woman of her reputation. With no money and nowhere to go, Angel wandered into another brothel and went back to her old trade. This fall, however, felt more devastating than any before, because she had already tasted what true gentleness and real freedom felt like. When Mike came looking for her again, she chose to leave with him. On the way back, neither of them spoke a word. It wasn't until late that night that Angel discovered Mike crying alone in the sheep pen. At that moment, she truly understood just how deeply her actions had hurt him. From then on, the two of them lived a peaceful life on the farm, with their days falling into a calm and steady rhythm. Then one day, they came across a family in distress, and the wife among them was about to give birth. The kind-hearted couple took them in. Soon after, the mother delivered a healthy baby boy. To thank Mike for his help, they not only gave the child Mike's last name, but also decided to settle nearby. From then on, Mike would often visit the baby. Every time Angel saw how much Mike adored that child, the guilt and unease inside her only grew stronger. One day, Angel finally found the courage to confess to Mike that she couldn't have children. She had expected their relationship to end right there, but instead Mike gently and firmly told her, "I love you, and nothing will ever change that." But the more selfless and accepting he was, the more Angel felt she didn't deserve him. He deserved someone better, a finer woman, not someone stained by her past. Driven by overwhelming guilt, Angel left a ring and a farewell letter for the girl next door. She hoped the young woman would take her place and spend the rest of her life with Mike. The girl rushed to find Mike in a panic, and this time he chose to respect Angel's decision. Angel found work as a cook at a restaurant, but her quiet life didn't last long. Before the Twisted Duke found her again, that very night, the restaurant where she worked burned to the ground. The next morning, as Angel was cleaning up the remains, she suddenly heard the Duke's voice. He wanted her to go back to making money for him. Angel tried to refuse, but he threatened the life of the restaurant owner, left with no choice. Angel returned to the darkness once more, but no sooner had she arrived at the Duke's lair than she spotted a young girl lying on the bed. She never would have imagined that after all these years the Duke's vile behavior hadn't changed one bit. Hearing the desperate cries coming from the next room, a bold idea began forming in her mind. So when the Duke dressed her up and paraded her in front of the ballroom, she exposed his crimes for everyone to see. Angel told them the Duke had a thing for children, and that right upstairs 2 little girls were being held captive. But none of the guests took her seriously, except for one black man who listened to her every word with full attention. Angel had enraged the Duke beyond reason, and he dragged her back to his room, planning to get rid of her for good. But just in the nick of time, that same black man appeared and rescued Angel from his grasp. Before she left, Angel made sure to free the 2 imprisoned little girls. And when the crowd downstairs realized there really were children up there, they flew into a rage. With everyone's help, the Duke was finally subdued, and his wretched life came to an end. 3 years passed on the streets of San Francisco. William spotted Angel by chance. By then, she was working as a cook at a church. Seeing her again, William apologized sincerely for all the wrongs he had done to her in the past, and Angel didn't hold it against him. After all, she had been forgiven many times herself. William told Angel how Mike had been doing. After she left, Mike had fallen into a deep depression. Even to this day, he remained completely alone. He was waiting for Angel to come back. So one sunny afternoon, while Mike was taking a short break in the field, he suddenly felt something and turned around. And there she was, Angel, standing right before his eyes. She was no longer the fragile, lost girl of before, but an independent woman in full control of her own destiny. In that moment, they finally rose above all the darkness and came back together, and made a vow never to part again for the rest of their lives. Maybe at some point in life when we're at our lowest, we've all wondered, who could ever love me like that? And this film gave us the most beautiful answer. True love isn't about overpowering someone, it's about protecting their soul. Their love endured betrayal and forgiveness, despair and hope, and emerged as something unbreakable. When Angel finally let go of her past and made peace with who she was, she experienced real, lasting growth. The last time they met, there was no more fear or evasion in her eyes, only quiet strength and a deep, unwavering love for Mike. May we all learn to see ourselves through the lens of love, because healing is nothing more than a long journey of making peace with our past.